Hello, Colts Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the No Horsing Around podcast. As always, we are two dudes talking Colts. We are your hosts, Steven and Zach. And we're excited today, too, because we are joined by, I'm going to say he's a special guest. He can call himself whatever he wants, but he is a special guest. We are joined by Derek Larger from Bring the Juice. Derek, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? Thank you guys so much for letting me on here. And hey, I gotta say, I love that intro. That's pretty hip there, man.
Yeah, I try, man. I try.
Hey, every once in a while, Steven gets it right, Derek. Every once in a while.
Dude, you have no idea how many times our audience has told us, change the intro. Then we change our intro and they say, oh, okay, well, we like the old one now. Like, they're like teenagers, man. They just don't know how to decide, man.
You never know. Short and sweet. You know,
Exactly.
That's what you try to do so we can just come right into it. But so we're going to get to previewing the Titans game. I think we wanted to touch first off kind of on just some new updates for the team. You know, obviously Carson's the big one. You know, what's going on with him. I know I've been texting with Zach quite a bit. I'd be really interested to kind of hear what your take is, Derek, on where he's at. Like starting with Carson, where he's at. What do you think? Do you think he plays on Sunday?
Man, you're putting me on the spot with that one. So I'll just say this. My educated opinion, I do not believe he plays Sunday. My educated guess. Now, I could be wrong. I mean, I've been wrong a couple times before on that. And also, not to mention today, I mean, they said compared to what he looked like just a day prior, he looks a lot better. So, you know, he had a less of a limp. He was out of the walking boot. He seemed to be okay walking around and everything, but we always know that's different than playing in the actual game. So I would love to be wrong. I hope he plays because I don't think this Colts team has much of a chance without him. But then again, it would not surprise me if he doesn't play.
Yeah. Zach, what about you, man? We've talked a lot on kind of where you're sitting. Obviously, more came out today. Like Derek said, you know, no walking boot, no crutches, moving around decently well, didn't practice. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that as of right now, I'm probably leaning on the same side as Derek. Like just pure educated speculation. You know, I've tried to dig as far as I can dig when it comes to that. But who knows, right? Like, who knows how he's going to respond to it? He responded so great, you know, when he had the surgery during training camp. So maybe he responds kind of at that rapid pace as well. It's a big game, though. I think if there's any way possible that he can pull himself out there, I think he's almost got to do it. You know, I mean, you start off 0-3, especially losing this division game, and I don't know if that's a hole that you can really dig yourself out of. You could, but it's an uphill battle. I was interested in Frank Reich not really committing to a starter if he doesn't play. That to me was a little bit more of a buzz than anything. I thought that's very interesting. You know, he's pretty much been. The dialogue's been, if Carson can't go, Jacob Eason is our guy, right? Yeah. Like that's what he's been saying all along. He didn't say that today, which was a really weird thing. And, you know, even listening, you know, to Zach Kiefer, Stephen Holder, some of those guys, they doubled and tripled down to try to get him to make some sort of commitment. And he just would not do that. So to me, that was my biggest takeaway from the press conference or just the conversation he had with the media. The fact that he's not even willing, you know, it's Wednesday evening as we record this podcast, and he's not committed to anybody playing next Sunday. So your guess is as good as mine, Steven.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would love, obviously I've got my Wentz shirt on today. I would love for him to play. I agree that I think if there's a way he can, there's no way I view this as he will play at anything less than 100%. He's going, or if he plays, he will have to be less than 100%. There's no way that he can't. But I just don't think there's a way that he's going to be able to heal up in time. As much progress as he's made from Sunday to Wednesday, there's just not enough days in the week, hours in the day. I think for him to get healthy enough to feel comfortable out there, I think there's a percentage line to where if he's below that percentage healthy, he's not going to play. And I don't think it's going to happen. I do think, I mean, I'm interested to get y'all's take on this too. Some of the other news, obviously, Xavier Rhodes continued not to practice. Paris Campbell was back, and Braden Smith didn't practice. What's y'all's take? I mean, on doing some quick updates with this. What is y'all's take on Braden Smith still? Like, we know nothing, absolutely nothing. And I've had a couple of people come and suggest to me, Wentz shouldn't play if Braden's not playing because of the concern for him. What do y'all think? We'll start with Derek.
I don't agree with that. I believe that as long as Eric Fisher is going to be in the lineup, which I believe at this point he will, wasn't on the injury report for the first time this whole season. Actually looked really good Sunday for the time that he played. So they said as long as he doesn't relapse with the Achilles, then he's going to be a full go on Sunday. So I think, and with Nelson and Kelly both not on the injury report at all, I mean, it makes you think, okay, 4 out of 5 guys on this offensive line are fully healthy now and are ready to go. So makes you think, okay, we'll scheme a little bit for that right tackle spot. But yeah, I mean, I don't know about the rest of you guys, and you can tell me whether or not I'm over-exaggerating this or not, but I'm starting to get kind of angry at, the fact that we know absolutely nothing about Braden Smith. They neglect to talk about him at all. They never bring him up on how his foot's doing. And also, on top of it, Xavier Rhodes, who had a calf injury to start out, and we said, okay, he probably – first off, they said he was day-to-day. So how he went from day-to-day to then being, oh, well, he missed the first game. Oh, well, he didn't practice all week, so now he has to miss the second game. And now he's already on the did not practice part of the list for the 3rd week in a row. Like, what is going on? Like, are you seriously just not going to want to tell us anything and just say how bad the situation is? Or do you truly not know? Because it's starting to make me think that they truly don't know how bad their own guys are injured right now. And it's getting me frustrated because Xavier Rhodes and Braden Smith are 2 very important pieces. This isn't like guys who are on the edge of the roster and are barely going to make it. No, these are corner pieces. Like, we need these guys. And the fact that you can't even give us a solid update on when they are planning to come back, I mean, just gets me frustrated because I'm sick and tired of talking about it and saying, I have no idea. I have no idea at this point. I mean, is Rhodes going to miss the next 2-3 weeks? I don't know. It's quite a possibility because we know nothing.
Yeah, I mean, Derek, you make a great point. I mean, it's just this nonchalant approach that they have when it comes to injuries in general, and it's not just this year. I mean, it's been for really under the Chris Ballard era. I mean, I would say that they have this way of talking about injuries, and I know that they're gun shy with the Andrew Luck stuff that happened. They're gun shy to put any type of real target dates because when they miss, they know Colts Nation is just going to pounce. But at the end of the day, I think you owe it to your fan base to be a little more forthright. I know there's a little bit of gamesmanship when it comes to, saying I'm not sure if my player's going to play, even if in the back of your head, one way or the other. I understand the gamesmanship from it, but I don't understand why you say he's just dealing with a foot injury. Well, what the hell does that mean? I mean, like what are you supposed to even, what are you supposed to even make out of it? I think it did come out today. They're calling it a sprained ankle. I think now they're kind of throwing that twist on there. But my God, that's got to be a pretty bad sprained ankle. I mean,
I heard it was a strain. At least that's from what I heard. I heard it was a strain, but they wouldn't tell us how severe it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you're right. It's really frustrating. We've got all these guys, and we're just holding up a roster spot for all of these players that can't even play multiple weeks. So for me, Derek, I'm with you 100%. I wish they would be a little bit more forthright with that. And at least just tell us and be honest. Say, hey, man, he's a long shot to play this week, and if he plays, great. If he can't, next man up and just keep going. Where are you at with it, Steven?
I was going to say, what, it kind of so like the calf work is now that he's missed multiple games. The whole calf thing worries me because obviously that's connected with an Achilles. So that makes me nervous, and they're not saying a lot about it. Braden Smith, my big question is he's been on, like you said, you're not getting much information. He's been on the list for his foot. And then randomly, I mean, Derek, I think you said something about this too. Suddenly the thumb is now listed.
Yeah.
He's not participated in 2 weeks.
He's not participating. How does he get a thumb injury along with it?
Where did that
How
come
does that happen?
You know, and then I mean, and he participated today, so I mean, I'm not going to harp on it too much, but kind of the weirdness too of the Paris Campbell injury. And you hear Marcus Brady coming out too now saying they didn't know till they were at the stadium on Sunday that he wasn't going to play.
That's crap.
It's just all very odd.
Either Marcus didn't know and like they kept that secret, or they just made they had a change of heart, which also is kind of BS, when you talk about it. Like, you need to know that before you make the trip, man. I mean, unless you need to have a good idea, unless it really comes down to the game time decision. But game time decisions, we almost always know, are made the night prior. They almost always are. So it's the fact that they didn't know until they got there. Come on. That's not flying with anybody.
Yeah, I mean, and if you want to take some good news out of the stuff, I mean, like you said, Derek, too, you mentioned, Darius isn't on there, Fisher's not on there. There's a lot of players that Nelson's not on there. There's a lot of players who seem to have some lingering issues the last couple of weeks. They're cleared, they're full go. They seem to potentially be getting healthy, which is an important thing kind of at this time.
Yeah.
Because it's such a, I mean, and we'll kind of transition now into talking about the game, but it's such a big game.
I hate to cut you off. I got one more question before we dive into the matchup. I'm just interested in your guys' take. It just kind of hit me. Dan Orlovsky had a real good piece, and he talked about players being injured versus being hurt. And I thought that was a very, very interesting way of looking at, injuries in the middle of a game. His point was, and on that last drive, if a player is truly injured, you don't go back out there. But if he's hurt, you go back out there and you fight with your team. Being hurt is a part of football. And I know that sounds a little bit, barbaric. But at the end of the day, you think about so many of these players who've gutted out. Phillip Rivers, you have to ask yourself, would Phillip Rivers not have went back out there and marched out there just for one more drive to try to win the game? I'm not knocking Carson Wentz. I know nothing about the severity of his injury, but I'm just interested in both of your takes. Injury versus being hurt. So let's just say for this sake of this podcast, he was hurt. He was not severely injured. We now know it's not broken or anything like that. We know he's got both ankles that are messed up. Would you like to see your leader go out there and march, get on that field no matter what, or do you think this is the right approach?
Derek, I'll let you go first.
All right.
Big sigh from Derek.
I'll just say this. I know this is not the same as the NFL. It's not the same as college. And but at the same time, they're getting paid to do it, and I wasn't. In high school, I played my entire year of football I don't remember if it was my junior or senior year. I think it was my senior year, because I had a strain behind my knee, which made it very difficult to even bend my knee ever. And I was an offensive lineman. Okay. So I'm bending every play, and it hurt every time I went out to practice. But you know what? I said I was not going to miss my senior year of high school football because of this. I am going out there and I'm going to play because I enjoy it that much, to the point where I know I can't do it anymore. And I did that. And, I'm not saying it's the same situation. Obviously, Wentz was in pain. We saw that on the sideline. We saw he was in pain. So I'm totally guessing that, there were a lot of situations. And when you sprain both your ankles, it's kind of difficult to move at all. But yes, in that moment in time, with the game on the line and how important it was, and with the end result now, we obviously saw what happened with Wentz not being in there, what happened. It would have been nice to see Wentz in that game at the end there to try and win that game, because I firmly believed that Wentz, even at 50%, was a better option at that moment in time with how the offense was moving with him. I felt it could have been better. But then again, with how much he was running for his life in that situation all game, I'm glad that they didn't throw him out there to the wolves just to get his ankles completely destroyed.
Yeah. So I'm torn because as someone who was watching the game, like, you're watching the game. I'm not there live. I know you were, Zach, but they're showing him on the sideline and you're sitting there and it's like, me and you have talked. I fully believe that had he been okay and he had gone in the game, I do believe the Colts would have went down and scored. The momentum was on the Colts side. He was playing fantastic. I mean, but I'm torn because there's 15 games left in the season too. It was there for the taking. I will agree with you. I think Phillip Rivers probably would have gone in and played. But also I say that because Rivers' game, we all know Rivers' game was very, very different. He wasn't having to scramble around. Wentz is getting, just plastered all the time.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, he's having to do it. I do think it's a great example of both. I think, in the reality of the game, I think he did play hurt and he to an extent, you hear him say today he sprained his ankle in the third quarter and he did play through that as much as he could.
Yeah.
And then, the best analogy I heard was here on Tennessee radio was that Aaron Donald calf roped him. You don't, that's not injury prone when Aaron Donald twists your leg like it's an MMA fight.
Yeah,
you're not getting up from that.
Other media, they don't care. They just hear Wentz injured and then, oh my gosh, he's injury prone. Don't even care.
Yeah. I mean, I would have liked it because I think that they would have won. I think the one thing, and you peeped it. I'm going to have an episode for everybody later this week, kind of defending Carson with all this because of just the nonsense for the national media that I've heard. But one thing they did say that I thought was interesting was that it was a moment that he probably could have won over the entire fan base very quickly if he had kind of pulled himself out. Andrew Luck-esque, pull yourself out there and see what you can do. Gut it through. I think it would have been a moment. So, but neither here nor there. Let's move forward because I'm going to joke and call it Tennessee Hate Week, man, because it is Tennessee Titan Week. Yep. We tend to go through kind of players to watch, keys, prediction. You're going to get to do a prediction too, Derek. We're excited about that. I want to see what you say. But I'm going to start off. So what do you guys think? Living in Tennessee, obviously, I hear it nonstop. The radio is constantly going about what's going on. They do view that this is a massive game for them. They know how massive it is for the Colts. There are some key issues that they do have, one of which is Taylor Lewan, and I'll be interested to get your guys' take on that too, that, he tweaked himself in warmups. So he's obviously not quite there. What do y'all think, man? Like, is it as big? Is it as close to a must-win game that you could think of in week 3 of a 17-game season?
I said it on Twitter, and don't know how many people agreed with me or not because I didn't check all the stuff. I said this is a must-win. This might be, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this might be the game that decides the season, and that's it. Because, again, if you lose, not only do you sit at the very bottom, but then Tennessee's 2-1, so they're already 2 games ahead of you, and they're also ahead of you in the division by 1 game as well. So now you have to play catch up. And, the Colts have had to do that so many times that, with the injuries that we're sustaining right now and with the way the team is playing at the moment in time, I just don't know if we are going to be able to catch up with Tennessee if they start gaining ground. So this is a game where if you win, you still have a chance to be tied with Houston for the lead in the division, believe it or not. And then, the Titans would be down, and then, you'd still be in playoff contention. You'd be 1-2, and with all these injuries, but so what? You're still in it. You still gave yourself a shot. But if you lose this one, you may not get another chance to come back from this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just to kind of piggyback off of that, this game means more to the Colts than it does the Titans. Like, we're the team that hasn't won a game. The Titans lose this game, maybe they rebound from this loss. If we lose this game, just like Derek just got done saying, I'm not sure. I'm not going to say impossible, but I mean, you want to talk about one hell of a hole that you've dug yourself for the rest of the season. And we still got a string of very, very tough games, as the season goes on. We knew this first stretch was going to be brutal, but it doesn't get, it's not like we just get an easy schedule for the whole rest of the season. We still have some really, really big games, I'm calling it a must win. I think it's that big of a game. I think it's a must win. And I'll be honest, if Carson Wentz doesn't trot out there, I don't see it. I don't see a path for us. I mean, and I'm sure Frank Reich, the forever optimist, is going to find some way to make it feel that way. But it's going to be an uphill battle. But it all starts, Stephen, with the guy that they talk about in your hometown all the time, Derrick Henry, right? Like, I mean, that's who it starts with. That's the train that's going to be coming through that town. We saw what he did at the end of that game against Seattle. It just pisses me off that they end up finding a way to win that game. But you got to stop Derrick Henry, and the Colts notoriously have not done a very good job of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, living here, and I had this discussion today with two guys I work with who are huge Titans fans. And I kind of posed the question, if I told you on Sunday Derrick Henry has 50 yards and no touchdowns, who do you think wins the game? Well, I mean, even as huge Titans fans, they go, the Colts win the game. It begins and ends with him because they're not the same. Like, you can say what you want. I have these discussions every single day because I live in Tennessee, that Tannehill's a good quarterback, but if you're reliant on him to win the game, you're not, it's a whole different thing. They have I get in huge arguments all the time. I do not think their defense is any good. I think it's not very improved from last year. And last year they were historically bad at times, but not to go there yet with Henry. You have to stop. It begins and ends with stopping him. If I get beat because Tannehill throws for 450 yards, I think you can live with that a little bit because you took away their biggest weapon. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yeah. Derek, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It always starts with him. It's always started with him. Over the last few years, it's been shown. If you can slow down Derrick Henry, I mean, you can help slow down this Titans offense. We did the same thing in week 7, I believe, of last year. We did the exact same thing. He got 100 yards on us, but there were many times where he only got those 3-4 yard rushes, and he probably had like 2 or 3 15-yard rushes. Okay, great. He got us like 2 or 3 times on a couple good runs there. But, most of the time they were making him work for the stuff that they had to do. And then you forced Tannehill to beat you elsewhere. And then that was how you decided the game. So that's exactly what the Colts need to continue to do this time. And they asked Julian Blackmon and they asked DeForest Buckner at practice today, hey, I mean, how do you guys plan on tackling him? And Julian Blackmon had a really great comedic answer to it. It was great. If anyone hasn't seen it, I highly encourage you to go on Twitter and look at it because that was pretty funny the way he brought it up. But, he said, we just got to tackle him, man. I mean, it's that simple. You just have to tackle the guy. And, DeForest Buckner showing great praise for him. He understands, Derrick Henry's in a league all of his own right now. I mean, there's not many guys that does what he does. So, you just have to understand it. I mean, I think that's one other thing I take positive note on from, this Colts defense right now is, it sounds like they have more understanding of what needs to happen this week in order for the Colts to win. They've been very lackadaisical the last couple of weeks, but, them showing respect to Henry and saying what needs to be done, kind of makes me feel like they're more up to the task this week. But yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry has 150 yards against us, then we're not winning this game.
Yeah, he's everything. I mean, he's the engine for that football team. And just like Derek mentioned earlier, put it on Tannehill, right? Like, make him go out there and make big time throws, and don't just let him, make those easy throws when Derrick Henry gets you, in 2nd and 1, and all those real short down conversions. Make him actually use his arm. I think Tannehill's been solid for that football team. I wouldn't call him elite, but I do think he's been solid. They've got two really good wide receivers that we can talk about, with Brown and Jones, and they both have in their own right have their own games. Colts have really, really struggled this year with technicians. You saw what Cooper Kupp did. Robert Woods did a great job as well, but in particular, Cooper Kupp, guys who really, really are fundamentally sound running routes. We have a real hard time keeping up with those guys. And a lot of the reason is we just don't have any damn pass rush, man. We just can't get any true pressure on that, consistent pressure on that quarterback. And that's got to change. Like this week, we've got to have a focal point on A, tackling the football player and not letting guys off the hook, and B, we're going to have to go out there and, be just more sound all the way around and put a presence and just get Tannehill moving a little bit. I know he's a mobile quarterback, but get him moving and get him uncomfortable when he's throwing off that back foot. He has a tendency to throw interceptions. When he starts getting a little bit uncomfortable, he's just like any other quarterback. When he gets in a rhythm, NFL quarterbacks get in a rhythm, they're hard to stop, man. It's going to be a long day. But as far as the wide receivers go, I think A.J. Brown is in a public enemy number one for me. I don't know about you guys. Steven, I'll throw it over to you. But I've got A.J. Brown as kind of the one guy that we better have a good game plan for A.J. Brown this week.
Yeah, if we're looking at our defense versus their offense, the two that worry, obviously, Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown, more than Julio. Mm-hmm. I don't think Julio has gotten his legs under him with the new team quite yet. He's had some controversy in Tennessee. There's been some stuff where he's had a little bit of off the field issue, things that have taken him away from the team. He's gotten chewed out by Mike Vrabel several times for doing things. He doesn't frighten me as much. And I know it's Julio Jones. Like, that sounds like almost sacrilegious, but A.J. Brown he's really good, man. I think I've told the story before. I met him in the offseason, and I had my Colts stuff on, and I met him at a golf tournament. And I would take a picture with him, and somebody asked him who was going to cover him for the Colts. And I said Xavier Rhodes, who may not play now. And he laughed. Literally actually laughed. So, and he's a big guy, and he's good. And the scary part, too, is he is coming off of a really crappy game. He did not play well for them in Seattle. He had a ton of drops. And he's going to come out looking to kind of fire it. And so it's twofold. If you let Derrick Henry run wild, then the play action happens. And that's when they start hitting that ball down there. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about it in the offseason. Derek, I know you guys talked about the secondary as a concern. So I think those are the two big guys. Who scares you more? I'm curious. Julio or AJ Brown, AJ, or is there another player on the offense that scares you?
Oh, A.J. Brown has to be the one that you look at more than Julio. Look, I get that Julio, ironically enough, Julio has is 23rd right now in receiving yards through the first 2 weeks of the season. And ironically enough, A.J. Brown is like 68th. So, he's not, but the only difference is A.J. Brown has a touchdown. Julio does not. Okay. A.J. Brown is the guy that I think makes more of the big plays versus a Julio Jones. Jones is the guy that, you get those yards after catch. You get the stuff in the middle of the field. But Julio, for the last 3 years, has not been a red zone guy. He is not somebody that scares me in the red zone because he just does not get targeted. The offense almost shies away from him for some weird reason or another, but nobody likes throwing to Julio in the red zone anymore. So, you got to look at it from the perspective of, obviously, both these guys can burn you if you allow either one of them to gain access. And obviously we've saw with, if we let a guy like Tyler Lockett or if we let a guy like Cooper Kupp do what they've done to us, then these two dudes will absolutely murder this defense if we do the same dang thing. So Eberflus has to do something to get this going. They have to start getting a pass rush. They have to start mixing up schemes. They cannot just allow these guys to dink and dunk on us all game, because I promise A.J. Brown and Julio will destroy this defense if they do the same schemes they've been doing. So I hope Eberflus has something up his sleeve to slow these guys down.
I'm in agreement. It's interesting. Zach, if you got nothing else on this one, let's flip it around. Let's do what we always kind of do. Let's flip it our offense against their defense and kind of take a look at it. I will say, as you were talking, Derek, I wanted to pull it up because I was trying to think in my head. It's going to be very interesting looking at this side of the ball because Bud Dupree didn't practice, Caleb Farley didn't practice, Jayon Brown didn't practice. They're missing a lot of players who are a little dinged up. And we already talked about it, but Taylor Wan did practice. Roger Saffold didn't. Like they're beat up. They put out their injury report today, and they've got a lot of holes, and they got a lot of people hurt on a defense that, like I said earlier, in my opinion, is not very good. They've got some great players. I think on their defense, it begins and ends for me with Jeffrey Simmons sitting in the middle. I think he's very talented. He's not like going against Aaron Donald last week, but he's very talented. He's a big dude. That's a key for me. And I don't know, if Jacob plays, my idea would be, you're going to turn around, you're going to give it to your backs. But I don't know how that plays running right at Jeffrey Simmons. He's a different kind of player than like an Aaron Donald with a speed rush where I think you ran at him. So kind of where are you guys at, Zach?
So for me, great question, Stephen. For me, I think this football game starts with a mentality, and I think you have to take a deep dive inside of your soul as an Indianapolis Colts organization and a football team. And we hung our hat on our offensive line and our running backs. Like those was the two position groups that we felt most confident about coming into the season. And I think it's a mentality. I think we should have the game plan this week of saying, I don't care who we line up against this week. We're going to run the ball, and we're going to run it down their throat, and we're going to play with the physicality this week that we just, quite frankly, have not played with this season. And we don't care what type of star or what type of player you have, on the opposing line or the opposing defense. It doesn't matter. We don't care about those names. We've got big-time stars. We've invested more money in this offensive line than probably any offensive line in the NFL at this point. By the time Big Q gets his contract, I think that'll all be said and done. We got to run it down their throats. And I don't care if that's Jonathan Taylor and Hines, if you want to bring in Mack, you want to bring in Wilkins even. I don't care what you do, but it all for me starts with the running game. And that way, no matter who is your quarterback this week, your football team has a mentality that they're going to play physical, they're going to play nasty, and then so be it. If you have Jacob that comes in there, they're prepared to run the football. If you have Carson that comes in there with limited, mobility, they're prepared to run the football. So for me, you just got to get back to the basics, and you just got to start punching people in the mouth and take it personal. So that's what I want to see in this game more than anything. I think we need a Jonathan Taylor breakout. We just need a running backs in general breakout for this week.
Well, I could go on forever about, what this offense needs to do. I would say this. I'll piggyback off what Zach just said here. You have to return to your identity. The whole point of this team is running the football. That has been its identity for 3 years now, and I don't see why it should stop now. I know the offensive line's not been great. I know you're going up against a pretty decent front seven when it comes to the Tennessee Titans, but that is your identity. You need to stick to it. Even if Wentz plays or not, that is what the game plan needs to be. It's time to start taking accountability. It's time to start taking some pride and start searching for it, because it needs to come out like they did in 2018 when they decided against Buffalo's #1 run defense that we're just going to run it down their throats with Mack. That's what they need to do in this one. Because look, the Tennessee Titans defense, like Steven says, not good. They're 28th in passing defense right now through 2 games. They're giving up 300 passing yards a game. They're 13th in the league in rush defense, giving up 100 yards per game. So you need to take advantage of this, man. And we've seen the Colts this year, they have been able to move the ball very well. It's just been in the red zone. Let me throw something at you guys here real quick. The Colts have been in the red zone the 4th most of any team in the NFL this year,
wow,
but are 22nd in touchdowns per game in the red zone. 22nd. They're averaging four times in the red zone per game and are only scoring a touchdown 1.5 times per game. So less than 50% of the time. It's actually like more like 30%. So that has got to change. And, we've said there's a lot of different reasons. The offensive line's not been good. The play calling has not been good. The execution in general has not been good. So it's time, again, it's really just about accountability and pride here. I mean, we got the players. This should be a defense that you can do whatever you want on it. I mean, it's time to just go out and do it, man.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great stat. Not a great, it's a sucky stat, but it's a great stat to hear that. I mean, that was like on the TV broadcast. I think they said the Colts. I want to say, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong with the numbers. 11 plays in the red zone, no points until they finally got the points.
Yeah,
like it's just, and man, it goes to what you said, Zach, and Derek, with it is the identity of the team. Is we're going to use the O-line. I mean, it was just 2 years ago. The O-line was a weapon, an offensive weapon used to just decimate the defense on the other side. If you're in the red zone and you have Jonathan Taylor, how are you not punching the ball in? How is that happening? And I have my issues with the play calling and things. Like you said, I think it's a combination of everything. Mm-hmm. Coaches got to call the right plays. Players got to make plays.
Yeah.
Find a way to make a play at some point in time. But it's like, it's not, the front seven is a strong, has talent. It does have talent for the Titans. But Derek, you pointed it out too. They are not. This is the weakest defense we have faced so far. And it's a team that you know this team better than any other team that you have played so far, obviously. And they hate you. And
it's time
you
to
hate
go show
them.
the hate back.
I mean, let's go no further than we did our top 5 running backs, and Zach didn't even put Derrick Henry in the top 5.
Yeah, man.
Just to stoke the flames a little bit with people, which got me a lot of slack in the state.
I absolutely hate the Titans, and everybody knows that. But I also think Pittman Jr. needs to continue off that momentum that he had last week as well, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, I really do, because like he looked good. He looked like a guy who's trying to come into his own and be a number one. We've got a lot of physical wide receivers too. Like, this team should be just such a physically dominant football team. So let's just use everything to our advantage, and let's just go play bully ball. I mean, I know it sounds cliche. It sounds kind of, whatever, but let's just do it. Let's just go out and play bully ball. Let's cut down on all of the second guessing. And, one thing I would like Frank Reich to do every once in a while, mix it up. I know we're a power team. Is to throw a few balls and pitch a few balls to the running backs on the outside. Let's get on the perimeter a little bit more, just to loosen that inside up. A lot of the plays Big Q would have, early on in his career, he loved getting out and pulling and hitting people, full steam. Mm-hmm. Got all these Brian Baldinger, highlight reels that he's just pancaked people and literally elevated them off of their own feet, up in the air. We got to use everything to our disposal. And another thing that we probably haven't talked enough about on this podcast in particular is Frank Reich has got to know the situation of this football team. And I know that you're aggressive, and we're all for people being aggressive. Like, we love that about Frank Reich. But when you're playing big-time games against really good football teams, man, don't you just sometimes just take the points? I know you're right there. I know you're a half a yard away from a touchdown, and I know how intriguing it is, and I know what the numbers say. But for us this season, the numbers don't say that we're doing very well. In the third and fourth and one. So I think you're gonna have to go with the points, all the points you can get on the road in this game to help out your team whatsoever. I just don't think you play that type of an aggressive football game when it comes down to it.
I mean, if it's like 4th and 1, it's like 4th and 1 and 4th and 2 at like the, it's like the 20-yard line, and you're saying like, okay, we got a 1-score lead, or we've been running the football on this team this whole drive, and we've just been knocking them like crazy. or recently, then that's fine. You can start doing that. But yeah, in certain circumstances, like, everything has been telling Coach Reich that, this team has not been getting the push up front. They're not getting the creativity. They're not executing, but yet you still continue to want to do fourth downs because the numbers look better. Well, I'll tell you what, Rodrigo Blankenship's been perfect so far this year. Why not go to your perfect hand and tell him, okay, just get 3 on the board? You're even right. Against good teams, points like that don't just come out of everywhere. You have to take advantage of the points that you get. It sucks also that, the players just aren't executing as well. That also hurts.
Yeah, it's funny when you say it, when we talk about that too, it's really interesting to hear Frank talk about it after the game too. It's like they were both like green light, all go. Like there was no question in his mind on either one. I don't know, man. I struggle too within the red zone because, you have the first one. And I know we've talked about this, but I struggle with it's like what it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't a little bit. You line up, you try to we were all upset in the Buffalo game, right? When they kind of ran the passes, and it's like, why don't you just give the ball to Taylor? And then we do that and it gets stonewalled. And then you try to get creative and it was too cute. I 100% agree. But then you get creative and you get stonewalled. So it's like you kind of did. If it works, then no one says anything at that point. So make it work.
Right. I'll tell you one quote that Reich stated. I don't know whether it was today or it was like maybe a day or two ago, that he said what he said about the offensive line, said that, for the most part, other than a few lapses in protection, said that they really liked what they saw from their offensive line. Now, me personally, other people may feel differently. That's fine. But I'm sitting here to myself and I'm saying, were you actually watching that game? Like, I know they're on the field. So like they see it, right? Maybe I'm not seeing it. Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I am wrong. I don't know. But when your quarterback is getting hit 15 times in a game like that against I don't care what defensive line it is. It could be the defensive line from the 1985 Bears. I don't care. Getting hit 15 times to me does not speak, oh, yeah, we did really good other than a few lapses in protection. How about 15 times lapses in protection, dude? Like, what game were you watching? Like, that's one of the few times I sat back and I'm like, what is Frank Reich saying? Like, nobody agrees with that. Nobody.
Not even the players.
Not even the players.
The linemen have said
Nelson said that play was unacceptable. We need to fix it. But yet Reich is over here saying, oh, it was actually pretty decent. We just need to fix it. If you think it wasn't decent at all. No. It wasn't good at all.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think that, Derek, to kind of come back to your point, that's a little bit of the problem, right? Like we keep continually making these excuses for our football team. I think it's okay when you've earned the respect of your locker room to call your players out or your team out every once in a while. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's fair. I think when you've done everything you can do as a coach and you have earned that respect and you have a great relationship with your team as a whole, it's not going to hurt you to go out there one week every 10 weeks and just say, hey, these guys suck today, man. You don't have to say it exactly that way, but you can say, we played bad. We didn't execute, and I know he's trying to not put it on the players. He's trying to be a player's coach, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you just need to be pissed off about losing. You got a fan base who has high expectations. They expected to win one of these two games. I don't think everybody expected us necessarily to go 2-0, but they expected us to win one of these two games because we're supposed to be a Super Bowl contending team. Well, if you're going to be a Super Bowl contending team, then you have to be held to a higher standard, and we're certainly not playing that way right now. I just wish that Frank Reich, somebody in that locker room would step up and say, and I know you mentioned Quentin Nelson and Ryan Kelly say, we got our asses kicked, and that's great. But you need to come back out the next week and you need to respond. Like we got our asses kicked in week 1. They said the same thing. Well, then we got our asses kicked in week 2 as well. So we didn't really respond to that. So now that's just a lot of talk. That's not actual play on the football field. So Yeah, that's my gripe. That's my rant. Ran over.
Yeah.
No, and you're good. I think it points to exactly, it all goes back to, we hate to say this, but Derek has said it, you have said it, and I agree. There's no bigger game at this point. You have to have a get right game. You if you're not going to show up for this, playing Tennessee in Tennessee when you're 0-2, they're 1-1, and you it's a game got to have it. You got to have this game, or like you said, the season could get away from us. So saying that, it's prediction time.
It's prediction.
It is. But I got a new one for you, Zach. So we've got fun little things here and now. So I've got a fun. You ready? Yeah. Here's it. He loves it.
All right.
I love Stephen Burton right there.
I always try. So let's go around the room. Derek, let's start with you, man. What are you thinking? And I'll give you an out too. We'll all get outs. Carson plays. Carson doesn't play.
Okay, so I get two predictions then. One if Carson does, one if Carson doesn't. Okay.
Yeah, we'll go both because we don't know still. We're sitting here Wednesday and we don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, I'll go first if Carson doesn't play. I say 14-31 Tennessee. I think it gets away that bad from us. Again, I've got very little faith in Eason, even less faith in Hundley. I don't know how a lot of Colts fans have faith in Jacob Eason, but that's beyond me. They can have it. I'm just not seeing it. Now, if Carson does play, this turns into a whole new ball game, and I think the Colts have a different mojo about them, and they will come out victorious. I say 28-27 Indianapolis with Carson in the lineup.
I like that. I like that score. That's I like that. Zach, what do you think, man? Same one with Carson, without Carson.
Okay, we're gonna do without Carson. So it doesn't really matter to me if it's Hundley or Eason. It's the same result. If we play them, I say that the Tennessee Titans will beat us 24-10. That's with either Hundley or Eason. I don't know, man. Maybe Frank Reich thinks because Hundley's played a game in the NFL, maybe he's going to have some bright idea to march him out there on Sunday and try to, throw everybody off because of his mobility and all of that good stuff. If we play with Carson Wentz, this is going to be a shocker, and this is the one I'm going to get just destroyed if I'm wrong on. But I predict the Indianapolis Colts will win 31-17 if Carson Wentz plays. And I actually think that we watched, I believe it was last year. We beat them on the road last year, and they beat us at home last year, right?
Yes.
Tends to be that way almost every year.
We beat them pretty good on the road last year, right? And I think this is going to be the same. This is going to be the same result. I think we're an embarrassed football team. I think we're back against the wall. I don't think we have a choice. And I think you're going to get the best version of the Indianapolis Colts this week, regardless. I mean, as long as you can have your leader marching out on that field. And there's going to be some pride, right? You got your quarterback who you know's hurt. Well, if you know your quarterback's hurt, the other team knows your quarterback's hurt, right? They're going to have a little bit of pride in protecting their quarterback. And I think this is going to be the game that kind of Jonathan Taylor goes off on this week. I think he's going to have, as the game goes, Taylor just gets better. If you can really get him in the routine and you can make it, if it's your game plan to run the football that game, about the end of that third quarter, fourth quarter, that's when he starts ripping those 40 and 50-yard runs off on people because he just keeps going when everybody else is getting tired. So, hey, there's my prediction. Kill me now.
I like that. See, you're not the one who will catch slack for this. It'll be me living in the state of Tennessee that has to deal with the repercussions of your predictions. So it's my turn. So let's see. If Jacob Eason plays, I think the Colts, my prediction, I've been sitting here, I've listened to Derek's, I listened to yours, Zach. I think if Jacob Eason plays, I think the Colts lose 35-7. I say that because I think Vrabel will want to embarrass the Colts. He will look to embarrass them. It's kind of what he's about. It's the way he walks with it, the way he talks with it, the stomping on the logo, the beating on the chest. He will look to embarrass the Colts. Yeah. And they will be able to, because I think at that point they'll just run Derrick Henry loose. They'll get up. The Colts won't be able to produce touchdowns because I don't think Easton's going to be able to really move the ball well, and they're just going to stack the box against Taylor. But the main reason I go that high score is – say again?
Easton did complete a pass last week.
Yeah, to Jalen.
Yeah, it was the wrong football decided.
To the wrong.
Yeah, he threw it to the wrong team, but he did complete a pass last.
So before I say my other one, I have to say this. I've said this. Did you notice that during that game, really quickly, that until that play, did you hear Jalen Ramsey's name once?
No, never.
Because Carson knew to stay the hell away from him.
Yeah, he did.
Jacob went right at him.
And also because, they game planned away from him, and they game planned better that time. And Wentz was hitting the targets when he needed to. And it's like everything was going really well for the passing offense that game, except for that moment in time.
Yep. Yeah. And then you tested the wrong person.
Exactly.
So if Carson plays, I think it's going to be.
Come on now.
24-17 Colts. And I will strut around Nissan Stadium in my Carson Wentz jersey because I will be present at the game this weekend. Y'all will get an instant reaction video from the stadium with my Carson Wentz jersey because I will be surrounded by Colts fans because if the Colts win, they filter down to where my seats are every time. I think if he plays, they play – I think they're a desperate team almost. I think you hit it on the head, Zach, with it that they're gonna know he's hampered. They're gonna look to protect him. They're gonna look to make sure he stays upright. I just hope he plays. I think I joked with Zach. You say a prayer every single night that his ankles are better at this point.
I mean,
but
he's had good progress in one day. You only hope it gets better and better over the next 48 hours. I mean,
heals quicker than anybody I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, look, I think we're all in agreement here that if it were up to Carson would play. Okay, I think he would play here. He said that's not. Unfortunately, he said that's not my decision. That's going to be the coaches and the medical doctor's decision on that. But I think if it was up to him, that if his ankles were anything okay, I think he knows the stakes of this game and would probably go out there and try it anyway.
Yeah, I agree. So, all right, so here at the end, I want to, I didn't say it in the beginning, actually, rate, review, subscribe, share, all that great stuff. I also want to give a chance, to Derek to kind of pump him a little bit. If y'all, we said it when we had Cody on before, if y'all don't follow Bring the Juice, if you're not subscribed, I don't know what the heck to tell you.
Get your life together, boy.
I don't know what you're doing. I don't know how you don't know who they are at this point. So Derek, give them a little bit on where to go, where to find you, if for some reason they have no clue.
All right. Well, obviously I'm Derek Larger, co-host of the Bring the Juice podcast. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Derek_Larger. And anywhere you guys listen to podcasts, we are on it. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, everywhere. So you guys can find us anywhere you want to. We're around it. So make sure you guys subscribe if you happen to not know who we are. We greatly appreciate it. We bring you guys content just as much as anybody else can.
Agree, man. Agree. We've said it to Cody before, and I've talked to you plenty over the last year. Mm-hmm. The respect level for you guys and what you guys do is through the roof from us and from most people, I feel, because of the content you guys do produce. So make sure you guys are tuning in to their stuff. It's almost daily, I believe, that you guys put something out.
We put at least one video out every day.
It's fantastic too, because they can be anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. It's great for the drive around. It's kind of, it's kind of like what we try to do too. So
yeah.
So now I'm gonna toss it, Zach. I always let you kind of talk to the people here at the end too.
Yeah, man. First of all, like you just said, Stephen, Derek, thanks so much for hopping on here, man. I know I asked you last second and you were so nice to get on here, and we're fans anyways. But like I always tell people, we're in the No Horsing family, guys. If you haven't had a chance to listen to Bring the Juice, then you need to make sure to take your time, listen to that podcast. Everybody in the Colts community kind of feeds off of those guys. So yeah, big up to Derek and Cody for all they've done to help our show out as well.
Thank you.
And our No Horsing family, we're just so grateful. We every single week we start gaining a little bit more momentum. And all we're doing, Stephen and I, are asking you to join our family. Join the family, have your voice heard. It's a podcast of the people for the people. And we appreciate everything that you guys do. Take time out of your busy days to listen to what we do. And I would like to say, hopefully on the next podcast that we have after a game, we can actually celebrate Colts victory. We haven't had a chance to do that. As a No Horsing Around podcast, we've never got to celebrate a real victory. We're 3-0 in the preseason, baby. I mean,
if we win, I will show up on your podcast Sunday night drunk, and I will have the time of my life on this podcast. I promise you.
Your shirt off. He's just going.
Yeah, shirt will come off.
Hey, listen.
We're flying around everywhere.
You heard it here first. Derek Larger's going to be here doing the helicopter with his.
You have no idea what it'll look like in the stadium for me.
Dance. Everybody loved the Dak dance that I used to do. So I'm going to just do the Dak dance. Oh man. Thank you again, guys, for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
It's no problem. So we end it the same way every single time. Y'all know I love you. Zach loves you. And like I said, I'm about 99.9% sure Derek loves you as well. We're out of here.